Es tut mir leid, aber ich verstehe kein Deutsch. That was the first sentence that I was ever truly comfortable saying in German. It means, I'm sorry, but I don't understand German. And I would say it so often and with such confidence when I first moved to Germany that my friends, all of whom spoke German, said that I was coming off as either joking or as someone who simply didn't want to talk to other people. And neither one of those were the case. I didn't really understand what they meant until I tried looking at it from their point of view. Now I imagined, and I want you to imagine if you will, standing in line at a coffee shop, the line's going a little slow, and so you decide to make a little chit chat with the person next in line to you. You say something like, wow, the weather's been pretty ridiculous today. That person turns to you and in perfect English and with full confidence says, I'm sorry, but I don't understand English, and then turns around. Needless to say, you would be a little confused, if not downright wondering what you did to warrant such a response. Well, that's basically how I was starting every conversation in Germany. So that was a lesson that I truly needed to learn. And thankfully, I learned it relatively early on. But learning to, or at least trying to see from someone else's perspective, has changed how I look at other cultures and other peoples. That lesson also helped me in the next lesson I learned regarding cultural awareness. Now, I had the privilege of serving in the United States Navy for 6 years, and in that time I got to see many places around the world, one of which was Bahrain. And in Bahrain, they have a huge open-air market. It was something I'd only ever seen in movies or travel shows, and it was something that I was really keen on experiencing. Now, one of the first things I experienced in that open-air market was the practice of bartering. It's not something I'd ever seen in Europe or in the United States, and it was definitely a learning experience. In fact, the very first vendor I went to, I was given a price for an item I wanted, and I proceeded to give that amount of money to the vendor. He stopped me, this man, halfway around the world, a stranger to me, and taught me how to barter in his broken English. Now, at the time, I didn't understand the point of the practice. But after going to the Middle East multiple times, I learned not only to understand the practice, but to truly appreciate it. In fact, I love it. It's not something you could do in the United States. You couldn't go to a cashier and barter the price. It would be unacceptable. But in the Middle East, not only is it acceptable, it is expected. And that was the second lesson I learned, that there are going to be major differences between cultures. It's not simply a matter of perspective. But what we need to do is not see those differences as insurmountable hurdles. And that leads me to my third and final point, and I think it's the most important lesson that I've learned regarding cultural awareness. I learned it relatively young when I was in Spain. I was with a friend of mine who's English, and he had met a French woman who only spoke French, and he, of course, didn't speak French. But her friend spoke French and Italian, and I speak English and Spanish, and then throughout that night, she and I conversed to each other through our languages. And what I learned from that experience was that where there is a will, there is a way. So, yes, there can be misunderstandings and misgivings and differences, and certainly differences of perspective. But the solution to those issues is having the will to understand them. We can understand each other if we want to. It's easy to throw our hands up in the air and say, we're different, and walk away. The hard part, but the solution, is having the will to do so. So I'm glad I was able to learn those lessons, and they certainly have helped shape my point of view. I want to thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have a great day.